Ciao tutti, it's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video. I'm just going to check I'm live on Facebook as well at the same time, as usual, which I am. Uploaded quite quick. Anywho, as I say, it's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video. Finally back in another video. Gotta admit, I've been a bit nervous about making this one, and just generally, but I thought I'd make it anyway. And I'm feeling a bit demotivated, but I'm going to do my best. But I'd love to know, people out there, what, if anything, do you know about Torino or town football generally, and Liverpool Celtic? And I'd love to know from Torino fans what they think and what your dreams are for the club, and for people to get involved in the comments, hopefully. But as ever, I appreciate your sharing, liking the video and that kind of stuff. I really appreciate that. And any comments, positive encouragement or whatever, any tips on how to stay optimistic and positive, whatever, for me or anyone else who might read them, please post them. I really appreciate that, either on Facebook, YouTube, or preferably both. At some point this month, I'd love to support like autistic and ADHD or ADHD or ADHD YouTubers and that kind of thing, and TikTokers and whatnot. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I'd love for Torino supporters to get involved and to share it with each other, share the video with people who support Torino and who are interested in football, especially town football more generally. But yeah, so as I say, welcome to part 2, and these are pointers number 11 to 20 as per usual. So here goes. So number 11, I would love for people in Italy, including in Turin, to get into walking more. I don't know how much people walk, but I think it'd be cool for people to walk more into it. I'd love to encourage people in Italy to walk more, and I think that could help with keeping fit and also improving diets. And I'd also love to talk about what Torino could improve generally. And I wonder what you think about walking. I love walking, even though nowadays with having less energy, I don't walk as much, certainly not as much as I used to. But for me, walking is really good, not just for physical, but also for mental health. But I wonder what you think of it as an exercise, and can it help footballers to walk more? I don't really get into jogging or running because I'm too lazy, and I just feel walking, taking it nice and easy. But yeah, I wonder how effective you think walking is as an exercise, especially for football, and what diets are good for footballers, what exercises they could do, what Torino and town football could do to change more generally. So yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. But how can they brand themselves more, things like that as well? I'd love to know that. As a mad fan of town football generally, and I'm wearing an intercap. But yeah, what can Torino do to improve? And I'd love to know what you think are some good exercises, especially for getting into football specifically. As I say, for me, walking really improves my mental health. I know I suffer from depression, but I'd suffer even more if I didn't walk. But also, I know I'm quite fat, probably even fatter. But even though it might not necessarily be as good as some exercises like swimming, I find really tiring. Cycling and that kind of thing, I find really tiring with other sports. But walking is quite a good exercise. But I guess on the pitch, you'd have to do more running. But moving on, number 12. What does Torino do well, perhaps, that they can continue doing? And again, what exercises are good for footballers? What exercise and diets are good for footballers? I also think of former players getting involved in the club, just like I talked about with AC Milan and Italian football generally. Like former players being club brand ambassadors, coaches, especially youth team coaches, managers in the future, maybe even, and basically just being involved with the club. How can the club connect with the former players? Number 13, my support for Italian football is from a bias, just because I think I look Italian and I support them since I was young. Think of the number 13, I normally, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I think of selfish stuff, and also negative stuff as well, scary, terrifying, or whatever, stuff like that, scary, creepy, macabre and whatnot. And I suppose the worst point in Torino's history is what's called the Superga air disaster, if I pronounce it correctly. So unfortunately, that was where they had a plane crash. I can't remember where it was that it happened. But yeah, most of I think, if not all, most of the players perished in that crash. So yeah, that's one of the worst times for Torino. Number 14, on that note, I hope that on the date it happened, which I think is the 4th of May, I could be wrong, Maybe that's a day where, although, well, no, we're not quite there yet. But maybe on the 4th of May, maybe starting this year, companies like Tesla, Toyota, uh, and Tata, and others, especially the ones that begin with T, or even YouTube and TikTok, talking of TikTok, could invest in the club to sort of make up for that history and turn that into a more positive commemoration of a negative day. Um, just thinking, unfortunately, I lost one of my cats on the 5th of August as well. That was a bad day, but I don't know how I could turn that into a positive day. But obviously, you can't really go back in time and make up for it, but it would be cool if they made a positive thing out of that negative tragedy and disaster. Tragedy/disaster and that kind of thing. Number 15, I love to know from Torino supporters, Torino fans, what they want to see with the club and that kind of thing. Number 16, I love to know, again, how can Torino improve? What are some things that Torino could do better, whether that's with their marketing, branding, attracting investors, sponsors, or whatever, selling merch, having more supporters around the world, supporters clubs, supporters and academies and that kind of thing around the world, or whatever it might be. How can they improve their diets? How can they reinvest better, or whatever it might be? What players could they buy? How could they get better scouting, better diets, as I say, better fitness, better exercises, or whatever it can be, whatever can be done to improve the club. I love for people to get involved in like a think tank to improve the club, perhaps. How can the fans get behind the team, maybe fundraise for and invest into and sponsor the team, like I talked about with AC Man and other Italian teams. Again, I'm mad and wearing the Inter Milan cap, but as a fan of Italian football more generally, I'm mentioning Torino because it's a Tuesday, like in my usual iterations. Um, Number 17, I'd love to see Italian football teams generally winning like at least conference leagues, if not Europa Leagues, Champions Leagues, World Club Cups, Super Cups, and whatnot. So to compete at that level and that kind of thing, I think that'd be pretty cool. Um, Number 18, I'd love to know anyone who thinks of any positive experiences people have had of Torino and what are some positive things they can do to market the club and for Italian football generally. Number 19, I'd love for Torino to fundraise for supporting people in developing nations in STEM, which I've talked about with the town teams and Celtic generally, the town team generally, and also Celtic. And number 20, how can they get the balance right between having good younger players, but whilst also developing older players at the same time? And on that note, I am out, and peace and love.